Now, when you say work for hire, does that apply to like maybe like the production part of it, or even with the artistry? Like, what do you mean by work for hire?
Yeah, I mean that's from the production to the vocals to the
Okay.
songwriting, everything. So yeah, I mean, without necessarily jumping right into some of the things that we talked about before,
Hmm.
but I think when it comes down to it now, the producer stands to gain more than an artist does in this day and age, simply because they have the ability to draw on those different work for hire situations, and it also depends on their willingness to go out and seek those things and build that rolodex of people to assist in whatever the situation might be. So I think that producers have the ability to be a true record label, in the sense of being able to pull all these resources together for the benefit of the artist.
Hmm.
But it takes commitment, it takes dedication, it takes some things that otherwise what we've seen how that occurred is typically through contracts, and contracts that may not necessarily have been the most up and up type of contracts.
Hmm.
But when it's all said and done, as a producer, and having the know-how to be able to find the certain things that I need to find, it allows me to pick and choose the best of the best in terms of what I feel is that situation, and that to me is where things get a little bit better around work for hires and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
there's always situations where there's people who are, I wouldn't say over the top talented, but there are people who are talented who are actually saying to themselves, I don't necessarily have to sell a subscription or anything else like that, but I can sell my services per, project or
Hmm.
whatever that thing may call for. And once I do that, I don't have to wait for the money, or I don't have to look to get recouped through royalties or anything else like that.
Hmm.
You just pay me up front. I do the job that you asked for. Everybody's satisfied. Everybody's happy. And then on top of that, you're left with a situation as a producer, or whoever you're working with, that you end up with all of the pieces of the puzzle, that
Hmm.
that you're in ownership of that. And unless there's something else contractually written up differently.
Hmm.
But I just think that, work for hires, um, I mean, everybody's done it. They just don't realize it, even back in the day. I mean, when you think about, at least for me being in Detroit and seeing Motown turn into this monster of a record label with a
Oh yeah.
plethora of artists, I mean, it was nothing for Martha Reeves to be answering the phone. It was nothing for the Vandellas to be doing backgrounds for the Temptations, or everybody was
Mm.
hands on. So when it was all said and done, that's the work for hire translation. You get what you need to deliver what you want to deliver on, and you make sure that you get the right people to do it.
Mm. That's real. That's real interesting right there, man. And definitely a whole lot to unpack right there. But one of the main things I want to get to is, the biggest conversation, or the biggest topic within a lot of the discussions that are being had right now, is the presence of AI. See, I know we discussed earlier about, the whole advancement in technology and how easy it's become now to work with people, and then we just covered the whole, topic about, work for hires, and how producers can, pretty much create their own record labels. But now what we're seeing is, we're seeing a lot of people kind of like, I don't want to say scared, but a lot of people have a lot of questions with this whole emergence of AI. A lot of people fear that with this new technology that a lot of people are getting their hands on, that they're pretty much going to quintessentially cut out the middleman when it comes to like producing music. Like, how do you feel, and what's your thoughts about the way this whole AI situation is being rolled out right now when it comes to music production?
I think it's really, really interesting.
Hmm.
It's one of those situations where it's not for everybody.
Hmm.
You know, um, but I've seen how it can benefit certain individuals depending on what it is that they're trying to do.
Hmm.
For example, if my focus is, um, not necessarily releasing music for the sake of, releasing music for people to consume and everything else, but for it to be a profile of my capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
And in that way, I can leverage an AI type of situation, maybe a vocalist or something like that. It was something I seen today that just was mind boggling. The dude was humming, and then he put the MIDI keys in his DAW, and then changed it to a vocal. Then he changed it to actual words,
Mm-hmm.
and now you got somebody that's actually singing.
Mm.
So here he is doing this. Well, now it comes back to what's the purpose? What are you actually doing this for? And if that were me and not having access to artists and things like that, but wanting to get people to kind of hear my music or hear what I do, then that's a good way of being able to leverage it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, I can leverage this AI vocal and throw it on top, and then say, hey, this is me. This is me producing this track.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a situation where you're getting somebody a little more interested in your production, but your lyrics, your vocalists or whatever. I mean, everybody's had that situation where they've heard a beat or they heard a vocalist and said, "Man, that vocalist is trash, but that beat is great," or vice versa.
Right.
That vocalist need a better production.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody's seen that situation where it's a benefit to hear one over the other. So I think that's where AI can be a bit more of a benefit in using it that way. Now, where it gets a little more deceptive is uh, there's this movie
Mm-hmm.
um, that I seen back in the day with Al Pacino. It's called Simone,
Mm-hmm.
and basically he was on the back end of his movie delivery, as a movie producer and things like that. So he ran into this guy who basically gave him this AI and says, this will change everything. So he basically created this this actress and used her to kind of manipulate things into the movies, and he would choose the emotions, he would choose all these different things, and it was all based against his script.
Mm-hmm.
So now all of a sudden he's a hot commodity and everything else. This artist or this actress, everybody wants her for pretty much anything and everything, and it's just AI. So they get to a point where she's actually doing a song, having a full concert and everything. So they done got the holographs and all kinds of stuff. But it really just kind of pointed to the fact that people will buy into anything.
Mm-hmm.
If you have all of the other things, the other elements around it that make it in such a way that this is one of those things that how could you not believe it? And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where we are. We're in a space right now where technology can ultimately make you believe a lot of different things without any fact checking.
That's true.
So I think that's where AI can be a little bit more on the detrimental side. So
Mm-hmm.
you have those types of situations as well. But I think no matter what the technology is, whether it's AI today or um, something else, 20, 30 years from now, if you abuse the technology, then it's going to be something detrimental.
Mm-hmm.
If you find a way to make it work in the confines of what you're working on and how you're trying to do something that may push the needle a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
then I think it works. I think it helps. I mean, there's so many different things about production that whether it be taught in school or no longer taught in school. How do you get more musicians? How do you get more producers and artists and things like that? I know
Mm-hmm.
that there's Full Sail and some other schools that exist, but there's ways that AI can actually teach you how to do those things if you learn from it, or if you're just trying to put something out and you don't really care about the optics of it or anything else. It really just depends on how you choose to leverage the technology.
That is true. And, I agree with you with a lot of what you said, because when I think about it, and I've had this conversation with a previous guest that was on the show just recently, I had mentioned the fact that my opinion on the whole AI situation, I'm like this, having, the fact that I'm a creator myself and I'm somebody that takes pride in the work that I put in with my own hands. So, like, Me, I feel as though like if you have to use the AI in certain areas to help enhance what it is that you're doing, then that's cool. But as far as like you have some people that just want to take and just use a whole AI model to completely from start to finish within your process, create something that you know you didn't do. You just hit a few keystrokes on the keyboard, and then here you are. You got a whole presentation, a whole song, a whole layout, or whatever the case may be. That's where I kind of like have a little reluctance, with the whole AI situation. But if you're using it for certain things, like how can I make a title of my song a lot better, or what key points am I missing that can help make this song go over the top? These little key ingredients that you can use to help enhance it. Then to me, I'm like, I'm okay with that. But when you're using it to totally, do 100% of the production, you pushing people out of the way. Now that's where where I have the disconnect at. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I mean, it's that's when it becomes exactly artificial. You know what I'm saying? That
Mm-hmm.
it is truly artificial, and even now, I mean, my feelings about music in general is that, and to some extent, I've always accepted the fact that music is a I'm not gonna say a young man's sport, but I'm gonna say that uh, it's the younger generation that are the tastemakers. They're the ones that really kind of determine the popularity of certain music and stuff like that. So I get it. There's
Mm-hmm.
certain things that just aren't for me, and that's cool. I have no problems with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the fact that if for me growing up and how music impacted me had everything to do with memories, events, and things like that. So like
Mm-hmm.
there are certain songs that trigger certain memories for me because those songs were playing when something might have been happening or whatever the case may be or made me feel a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And if to me I think that there's a way around um, in leveraging AI, I think you lose that.
Mm-hmm.
You lose that connectivity. You know what I'm saying? Because it's only able to generate something based off of whatever information you give it.
True.
So that being the case, it's never gonna have what I like to consider a soul when it comes to the music.
Oh yeah.
So to me, it's like you can only do so much with it. And when people are utilizing it in such a way where to me I find it to be a little more scary in the sense is that the powers that be that have the ability to take it to a whole nother
Oh
level,
yeah.
they cut out artists, because it's like when it's all said and done, I don't have to pay, I don't have to pay a publishing company or anybody for that matter
Mm-hmm.
to just get music played in my restaurant, right? I don't have to worry about any of that stuff where I have to get a blanket license from ASCAP or anybody else. I can just go to my tech dude and say, hey, generate me about 30, 40 songs or whatever, saying this or doing that and having this type of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And then we good. And I can just play that in my restaurant. And as a matter of fact, because I made it or we own it and everything else, then I should be getting somebody to pay me because I'm playing it.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes more of a situation where, you're taking out the humanity of music. And I think that's what that to me is where it is really, really detrimental in the sense that um, without having a soul to the music,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't have it won't have the ability to connect. That and this is all my opinion on how I've seen music morph into where it is today.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like it will never sound the way I think it should in order for it to mean something to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and again, if it's meaning something to the tastemakers or the generations that are younger than me, then it's fine. I mean, I think
Mm-hmm.
there may come a time that that's the kind of music that they come to want.
Yeah, that's true.
But I do believe that everything comes full circle. And I was listening to something that Eric Sermon was talking about. It's like um, with us growing up in music and everything else, and through the times that we did, you know, it wasn't just about us listening to each other. I wasn't listening to everybody around me. I still had we had the music of our parents. We had the Temptations. We had the Motown sound. We had all the Chuck Berry, BB King, all of those different people, the staple singers and everything else. So we had something that wasn't necessarily the things we were listening to every single day, but there was a distinctive difference between that music and the music of our generation.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at this generation, what are they really kind of going back to? And I wouldn't even say referencing, but where are they kind of, peeling the layers back and going back to that's not the music of their time right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not there. So there's already this disconnect that is slowly but surely building. And we're talking about a generation of people who really don't, at least, and this is just, stuff that I see and read, the generation of artists right now, they don't really, I'm not saying paying homage to the older generation, but I don't think they really listen to the older generation.
That's true.
And because of that, they don't have anything to really kind of reference in their mind. I mean, I grew up with listening to Tupac, Scarface, all these other different artists and everything. And as an older, adult, I'm not driving around listening to Tupac like I used to. I still
Mm-hmm.
will bump Tupac in the confines of my own home, but at the same time, it's just a different time and place. But I can go back and reference the things that I heard when I was growing up, which would be
Mm-hmm.
my parents. So I think that there's a difference in that regard.